Hello, Identity and Access Management Foundations. In this section, we are going to see what are the different AWS credentials. We are going to learn about how to use and how to define users, groups, roles, and policies. We will also discuss about the security token service and instance profiles. Finally, we will cover what is the metadata server. Let's talk about AWS credentials. In this video, AWS credentials, we are going to learn about type of credentials, access options, and key definitions. Let's start. First of all, let's learn some terminology to understand what are we going to cover here in this module. The root account. When we access to AWS, we use a root account. The first time we access the AWS console, we use a username and password. In this case, it's an email address and a password. The root account is the account owner, has full access to everything in the account, and also is the only user that can perform very specific tasks like transfer domain, billing details and change the billing details, or also change the support plan. Also from the root account, you can change the security contact or billing contact, among other tasks, but these are the most important. The root account shouldn't be used for anything but the specific tasks, and also to the account for the account creation. For any other task in the account, like creating any resource and configuration, etc., we have to use identity and access management users and credentials. IAM allow us to create users, groups, roles, policies, and instance profiles, which are a role. We will discuss about that. But from identity and access management, we have username, passwords that can be with a multi-factor authentication code, same as a root. If enabled, this is not mandatory, but is recommended to access the AWS Management Console, also to the AWS discussion forums, and also the support center. More information that we need to know are about the keys. In this particular case, the access keys are going to allow us to perform some operations against the API, like the SDK, like the REST API, or also to do queries or perform actions through the API using the AWS CLI, the command line interface, which is a tool that allows us to perform different actions against our resources. The access keys are actually a pair of keys, which is the access key itself and the secret access key, with the format that you can see in the screen. Security Token Service, STS, is also an additional layer of security when it comes to keys. It's temporary and very limited privilege credentials for IAM users that you can use to authenticate with, in addition to the access keys, and also for any federated user, and for instances, when the instance has an instance profile. We will see what is that. And finally, the key pairs. The key pairs also are used to connect to Amazon EC2 instances through SSH in Linux, in any Linux related instance. And they are key pairs, are private key and public key. We will see how to create SSH keys, access keys, and security token service keys during this section. We have to look after our keys and where we store the access keys, the API access keys, because we can find access keys in many different places, like CloudFormation template, and the user data section of the CloudFormation template, and the metadata server. You will see later what is that. Also in many other places like GitHub or other source code repository, in their version, in their commit history, in public EBS volumes, in public AMIs, in S3 buckets, and many other places that you can see here. So you have to take care of what level of permissions you give to your keys. We will see that in a moment. Now I'm going to show you how to log into the console as root and different sections. Now we are going to aws.amazon.com, and from here we can access to multiple resources like documentation, solutions, pricing, and also signing into the console. In this case, I already have a root user in the cache of my browser, and I'm going to access as a root. But you can also create a new AWS account if you don't have an account already. It's very easy. You can see here the form. You can just fill the form and that's all. I'm gonna sync into an existing AWS account. As I said, I'm logging as root user. And the first thing I'm gonna do is to check my security credentials as root. Remember, root is the user that can do everything. And as a best practice, we should create an identity and access management users with limited permissions. Let's go ahead and see different sections here and what to do now. First of all, we can change the password in this section if we need. And also, we should enable multi-factor authentication for the root user, because any task that this user is performing can be very dangerous. So better to keep this user well protected. So in order to do that, we have to activate MFA. MFA, multi-factor authentication, can be virtual or hardware. We are gonna make it virtual, and here you can use multiple different MFA compatible applications like Google Authenticator, etc. You just have to scan this barcode and you are good to go. Remember, for the root user, don't create access keys. Access keys are better to use with users and resources using identity and access management. So as a summary, now we know the type of credentials we can use, which are the root and identity and access management users, the different access options, and the key definitions.